Hello, good day. Welcome back to my channel, and this is again a censoration vlog. And today we're going to talk about one of the most important topics or issues in the country today, and this is the ongoing issue of red tagging. 5 to 7 days ago, the Committee on National Defense in the Senate of the Philippines, conducted this very controversial issue of red tagging. And a number of well-known personalities and celebrities were added to this so-called red tag list. And the names include Liza Soberano, Angel Locsin, and former Miss Universe Catriona Grace. So the Committee on National Defense summoned several government personalities, including members of the militant groups, and I think it includes the surrogates of these well-known personalities, in order to really see what the hell is going on, if the government is indeed abusing its power in trying to implicate or so-called red tag these celebrities in this country. But before we get to the main topic of today, I'm gonna tell you that I'm a critic, strong critic of the Duterte government. I've been a critic of previous governments, including Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Noynoy Aquino, and the current or incumbent president of this country. First, I became a critic of Duterte when he came into power, and he had this so-called alliance or power sharing idea with the revolutionary CPP in this country. And I was telling myself, the president doesn't know what he's doing in trying to appease the Reds or the communists. So I'm a radical for capitalists. And my disagreement with President Duterte is purely on policies or ideological matters. So as we all know, President Duterte claimed that he is a socialist. So he probably has this socialist leanings, but he's not a communist, because as we all know, he was somehow endorsed by Jose Maria Sison in 2015 or 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Although Jose Maria Sison, or Joma Sison, the founder and leader, apparent leader of the Communist Party of this country, who is currently residing in the Netherlands. You know, ironically, Netherlands is one of the freest or most capitalist economies on earth. Joma Sison denied endorsing President Duterte, but we all know that in 2016 he had an interview with the Philippine media, in which Jose Maria Sison likened then candidate Duterte to Hugo Chavez. So this is this is a 2015 article, October 10, 2015, in which he really liked President Duterte, but I don't think that amounts to an endorsement. And he had some very, very kind words to Duterte that time, because, like I said, we know that Duterte was some kind of close, or had this close ties to the communists, and he's seen in a lot of events being photographed with the communists, like these ones that I'm showing you in this article by Tiglao. Although I don't think Tiglao is a valid source, but he's merely quoting the president. So Duterte said that Bayan Muna, KMU, Gabriela are communist funds, and this is a news from 2018. And all of these stories that we have today are being discussed in the ongoing, or the last hearing on November 3rd, concerning red tagging allegedly being performed by national state agents. What I'm trying to tell you is that President Duterte, who had historic ties with the communist rebels or the communists, knows what he's talking about. He's been with them, and he probably attended their meetings or parties. Let me tell you again that I'm a critic of President Duterte. I'm against his drug war policies, the way he handled the pandemic, his economic policies, his anti-terror law. But then I'm also critical of the Reds or the communists. And between the two, I think the more dangerous between the two is the communist party of this country. And I'd rather lived under the current administration than lived under communism. Okay, communism is more evil than the current regime that we have today. So let me just define our terms. The term red tagging is technically a smear term adopted by the communists and those sympathizers of the communists in order to paint the government as abusive or tyrannical. However, let's just admit that there are incidents in which the government abused its powers. Okay, there are a lot of incidents. There are a lot of events that will definitely agree to this assertion. However, like I said, this term red tagging is just a propaganda term. So if you're gonna Google red tagging, someone created or some people created this entry on Wikipedia defining red tagging as impinging on the right to free expression and dissent according to media and right groups. And there's also this red baiting, another term which is synonym to red tagging, also known as reductio ad instellinum and referred to as red tagging in the Philippines, is an informal logical fallacy that intends to discredit the validity of a political opponent in the opponent's logical argument by accusing, denouncing, attacking, or persecuting the target individual or group as anarchist, communist, Marxist, socialist, Stalinist, or sympathetic towards these ideologies. Alright, so using that definition, yes, we all know that the government is capable of doing all that. Okay, but the term red tagging is, like I said, it's a propaganda term. So if the government has abuses, okay, we have a system, a justice system to prosecute and prevent that from happening. That's the reason why we have this ongoing hearing in the Senate. We have the judiciary in order to look into that. But the problem in this country is that, there is a marriage between the presidency or the executive branch and the legislatures. And we all know that, most of the members of Congress are allies of the president. So I still have faith in the ongoing justice system that we have in this country. So if we have abuses in the governments, let's look into that and let the courts of law decide and punish those who abuse their powers. But to discuss this issue of red tagging and the so-called abuses of the government, let's identify 4 principles or facts that our country confronts today. The 4 facts are as follows, okay? There exists an ongoing war between the national government or the Philippine government and the Communist Party in the Philippines and its so-called democratic fronts, okay? That's fact or principle number 1. Second, all warfare is based on deception. That's a second principle or fact that we need to understand. All warfare is based on deception. And we know that this maxim, this time-tested maxim, came from Sun Tzu, from China. Okay? And third, we need to identify the enemy in order for us to survive. Identification of the enemy is very important. And fourth, third is to identify the enemy. Fourth, to defeat the enemy at all costs. Now that we laid down the principles that we need to understand in order to grasp the ideology or propaganda behind this term red tagging, let's discuss about the ongoing war between the Philippine government and the communists in this country. Jose Maria Sison himself said, there exists an ongoing revolution in this country. The left or the communists in the mountainside haven't surrendered yet, but we know that many members of the communists have already surrendered to our soldiers or to the government. That's the first principle that we need to understand. There exists an ongoing war between the Philippine government and the communists, and the communists are not going to give up, are not going to surrender. The Communist Party in this country was founded in 1968 by former student activists. again, he's from UP, Jose Maria Season, and he was raised in Ilocos Sur, my province. And the CPP seeks to establish a new democratic state in the Philippines, and it has two related units. Okay, the first unit is its Revolutionary Military Wing, which is the NPA. The NPA is the armed wing of the CPP. It is that wing that is waging revolutionary military warfare against the national government of this country and our soldiers. And its second wing is its political arm, which is the National Democratic Front of the Philippines. As you can see, this is the constitution and program of the Communist Party of the Philippines, and it was posted on its website, the CPP.ph, in 2016. If you're gonna go over this platform of the CPP, it's the constitution. It will tell you how to be a member of the Communist Party and its tactics. We're done with the first principle. Now, the second principle that we need to understand is based on deception. It's all based on deception. And the Reds or the Communists, Jose Maria Season, know that if you're going to choose between a Duterte government and a communist government, you'd be too stupid to choose the second. The second is all about collective way of life. It's all about slavery. You're trying to enslave yourself to a collective. And if you're going to read the Constitution, it's all about that. It's your individual rights versus the collective rights. You're like leasing your whole life to the party. I read this Constitution of the CPP-NPA, and I'm going to tell you that Article 3 and Article 10 of its Constitution reveals their tactics. Okay, so let's get to principle number 3. Know your enemy. Know your enemy. It's very important for you to win a battle or any game. You need to know your enemy. This is not just applicable to military warfare, but also to business and sports. So just to give you an analogy, in basketball, all these basketball players and their coaches have this war room in which they study their enemy. They study their strengths and weaknesses in order for them to defeat that enemy in their next game. It also applies in business, especially in military. So it's all about the survival of your nation. If you want your nation to survive in an ongoing warfare or revolution with the communists, you need to know and identify your enemy. And the principle of knowing your enemy or identifying your enemy, we get this from the masters. Let me just quote Sun Tzu here. His quote is as follows: if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So it simply means the importance of identifying your enemy. Who are your enemies? Okay, what are their tactics? What are their logistics? What are they capable of? Okay, are they capable of infiltrating the levers of our society? Are they able to infiltrate the chambers of our society, the branches of the government? Okay, if they're able to do that, if they can infiltrate Congress, for example, and take advantage of the loopholes in our constitution, just like the party list, system in the constitution, then you need to advance the way you do battle. You need to advance your warfare tactics. Always think that you are confronting a very, very smart, evil, and tactical enemy. Do not underestimate your enemy, because they can also do that against you. If they were in power, just like the socialist and communist countries on earth like China, they're also applying the same tactics to their enemies. China, for example, is known for abusing the rights of their own political opponents. So even simple dissent. Chinese government or the CPP-NPA is going to cripple simple dissent. They don't want critical opinion. They don't accept that. That's part of their tactic to defeat whatever enemy they have, whether that enemy be small or large. Their goal is to stop a dissent from growing and preventing it from becoming a large enemy. That's their goal. In our country, our government and the military should be tactical in identifying the enemies of the state. Okay, again, like I said, so there is an ongoing war between the communist and the government. Okay, that's an undeniable fact. If you're gonna deny that, then you must be moron, you must be stupid, and you're risking not just the lives of your own children, but the whole future of this nation. Because knowing your enemy and understanding the fact that your enemy is capable of doing deceptive tactics, whatever tactics that it can come up with, lies the survival of your nation and your family. Now, part of knowing your enemy is identifying the constitution and principles of your enemy. So let's start with the constitution of the CPP-NPA. So they have membership program. So you need to be a member of the Communist Party to be considered a communist. And in fact, Nelson Mandela defined who is a communist in his manuscript entitled How to Be a Good Communist. Okay, so this is Nelson Mandela, okay, one of the known leaders in South Africa. According to his manuscript, so number 2, how to become the best pupil of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin. So he said, at the beginning of these lectures, we define a communist as a member of the Communist Party who understands and accepts the theory and practice of Marxism, Leninism, explained by Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin. And in conjunction with that statement, we all know that the CPP-NPA is basing its strategy, its principles on the fundamental principles of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, etc. So under Article 2 of the Constitution of the CPP-NPA in this country, so we have this membership. You need to be a Filipino or resident of the Philippines, but then Jose Maria Sison is not a resident of this country. He's a resident of the Netherlands, which is one of the freest economies on earth. It is number 14 according to the Economic Freedom Index of 2020. So the Netherlands is one of the freest and most capitalist countries on earth. So let's get back to the membership. So you need to be a member, but not all, citizens of the country can be a member of the party, just like the Communist Party of China. Okay, you need to prove yourself, as it says here. There are things that you need to surrender in order for you to be member of the Communist Party, and these rights and duties of members are under Article 3 of the Constitution of the CPP-NPA. So just check on this. There are a lot of duties that you need to consider. So like I said, not all citizens can be a member of the Communist Party, but then it has its own allies. Okay, and we're gonna get to section or Article 10 to understand the National Democratic Front. So since not all members or not all citizens of a country can be member of the Communist Party, it has its underground fronts, and that is shown under Article 10 Section 6 of the CPP Constitution, and I'm getting to that right now. Article 10, the role of the party in the United Front. Section 1, to ensure that the democratic revolution is of a new type and has a socialist perspective. Again, socialist perspective. It has the communist perspective and socialist perspective. So it has two level of classes: the communist class, who are members of the party, and the socialist perspective, the common people. Okay, who are these common people? The working class is the leading class through its advanced detachment, the Communist Party of the Philippines. The vanguard role of the working class shall be upheld by all party members in the United Front in general and explicitly, implicitly, informally, or in practical terms in concrete United Front agreements. So let's get to section 6, which is very important. It's going to tell you their deceptive tactics. That these KMU, Gabriela, Bayan Muna, who are sympathetic to the NPA, are actually part of the deceptive United Front of the NPA or CPP-NPA. So Section 6 states, the National Democratic Front or NDF is the most consolidated underground United Front organization of basic revolutionary forces. So let's try to understand their terminologies, because again, the communists are good at propaganda and Orwellian tactics. They know how to use semantics in terms in order to defeat your mind, in order to fool you. So explicitly, under working class leadership and for armed struggle along the general line of national democratic revolution. The NDF is the most important part of the entire national front. So they have covert or underground operation or tactics. The National Democratic Front is a distinct and integral united front characterized by its essential tasks of helping forge national unity. National unity. What are these national unity? It is the unity of all these peasant groups, the KMU, the student groups, LFS or League of Filipino Students, the Gabriela or women's groups, etc. So although these parties, or what we call party list groups or militant groups in this country, they're not explicitly members of the Communist Party. So like I said, for you to be a communist or to be considered communist, you need to be member. As Mandela said, you need to be member of the Communist Party. But they have underground fronts. Okay, they have underground fronts or facades, and these are the militant groups that we have today. So we don't have explicit proof for that, but we have circumstantial evidence. I don't know, but we probably have explicit proof. You're not gonna, get members or leaders of Gabriela or KMU or Bayan Muna to tell you, hey, I'm a member of, or we are part of the Communist Party. You cannot make them admit that. Okay, these people are not stupid. These people are not stupid. Again, we're going back to the second principle. All warfare is based on deception. We're gonna get to that. So the National it's a distinct integral united front organization. Okay, etc. So they have component organizations winning over other forces to become either components or cooperators. Who are these cooperators? And paving the way for the establishment of organs of democratic power, especially at levels higher than that of the barrio. There you go, guys. The deceptive tactics and strategies of the Communist Party of the Philippines. So these people are not stupid. You cannot make them admit that, hey, these are members of the communists, or these are part of the communist struggle in the Philippines. But in fact, Jose Maria Sison, in a statement in the 1980s, admitted that, and that's one of the so-called pieces of evidence by the national government to help identify the these enemies of the state. These are enemies of the state, and they are trying to dismantle the status quo in order to, like they said, replace the existing status quo with what they call democratic Leninist, Maoist, Marxist society.